What do you want, little one?
Your ass.
Okay, Akiva, my name is Grae. I am such a huge fan of Naked Gun. I am wearing my
I,
Enrico Palazzo shirt.
yes, yes. Does it say it at the bottom?
It sure does.
I can only see his face, but
And
wonderful.
I want to thank you for not making me sound like an asshole when I told people this movie was going to be great.
I'm shocked. I would be pretty wary, I think, if I heard it was happening. I certainly was even when they approached me. And I was like, really? What are you gonna do with that?
Well, and that's kind of the trick is that I thought that Naked Gun, as it was back then, wouldn't work with modern audiences. And I would say that because it's like I think there's a sweet kind of naivete, but there's a little naughty wink to a lot of the jokes. And um, I don't think we're those same people anymore, but I think what you all found when you wrote the script is a way to make it relate to modern audiences.
Well, that's kind of the nicest compliment you could pay the movie and pay me and us. So thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the whole challenge, right? That's the assignment. And so you saying that is just music to my ears, I guess.
I'm very happy. I hope you've been getting love heaped on you through this whole press tour. And I'm gonna try and stop complimenting you, but I want you to know it's how I feel. And
Thank you.
if we could get in the weeds on it, was this
Sure.
script what y'all built from the ground up? Was there something remaining from previous versions that you liked?
So most of the previous versions that I only know about from Googling it once I got the job and was like, what are the last like deadline articles and variety articles about this? Most of those they wouldn't let me see because on a legal level they don't want because we started from scratch.
Okay.
Most of them they wouldn't let. That being said, there was one script that Fuzzy Door had attempted that technically we were rewriting, even though we didn't like that's why those screenwriters don't have credit because we didn't actually rewrite it. We There was the one that they were like, you can read this one because it's the Fuzzy Door one.
Sure. Set
And
the grounds.
and I'll give them the credit. The UCLA joke is their joke. And there's two jokes from it is
Yep.
there might be more than two, but the two really good ones. And it makes sense because we read the whole thing. We're like, whoa, this is just a very different version. This is not the version we're making at all. But some jokes are evergreen. And it was the you can't fight City Hall. No, it's a building. So two of them are
Ah,
really good ones. But it makes sense because I read a whole script and went, ooh, wow, I'll take those because they're
right.
fantastic. Yes.
Also, your editor Brian Scott Old gets a shout out because the movies like Naked Gun are made in editing.
Agreed, agreed. Me and him, we had worked on Chippendale Rescue Rangers together too, so I knew he was my guy, and we just go really hard on it. I am not, and we are not easy on it. I mean, those
When
movies are all Naked Gun's 85 minutes. Naked Gun 2 is 85 minutes. I was like, our goal is 85 minutes. I don't care how much we love anything. Everything's expendable if it isn't getting the laugh that it needs to. Momentum is the whole deal. We can choose when we're going to be self-indulgent and not care about that occasionally for ourselves. But for the most part, that's the whole name of the game.
what is your process together like? Do you kind of send Brian dailies, or is that being constructed the entire time? And then do you sit down and just pour over every single frame? Because comedy is a difference of one frame sometimes.
Yes, yes to all of it. When we're shooting, he's getting the dailies and he's a day behind, just looking over everything basically. And occasionally I'll be on set and be like, I think I have everything I need for that scene, but will you do a really fast assembly like now? Because we aren't tearing down the set tomorrow. And if I need a close up, I could steal it, but then the set is going to be gone. And so
Mm.
there's certain things where it's just for the most part, I didn't look at what he's doing. And then there'd be certain times where I'd be like, drop everything. Sometimes even the dailies would take too long and I'd film off the playback like
Huh.
5 shots in a row. So it's instant. And we had a secure Slack channel and I would Slack him clips from set and be like, will you cut these 5 shots together now? And like an hour later, I'd be looking at the cut on my thing, like at lunch, and going like, oh, okay, I do want this other angle, and I could shoot it after lunch as a way to just quickly know what you have to know. And then, I'm an editor myself in terms of like I edited all the SNL digital shorts personally, me and Yorma, but we never used an editor at SNL. And I'm bad at Avid, but I'm really fast in Premiere, not to brag.
Mm.
But so there's a fair amount of me and Brian also tag teaming stuff where we'll watch it 2 scenes and I'll give him notes on one and I'll be like, I'm taking the day. I would have all the dailies in Premiere and I'd go make a real quick assembly, like basically like choosing all my takes, getting them all together, and then it would go to an assistant who would use that to move it over to Avid. And then I'd sit with Brian and then we'd sit and do the frame, the detail work together.
Did
But
you
a
ever
lot, yeah.
did you ever show anybody their performance while you were shooting just to say like you are definitely hitting the tone here?
No, well, what did we do? There was a moment midway through where me and Brian through the Slack. So me and Brian, because we did Rescue Rangers and it was during the pandemic, got really good at using either Evercast or Clearview, not to get too inside baseball, but those are the good programs for editing remotely, or using the Slack channel once we had kind of the shape of a scene, where he'll send me a 30-second clip and I'll go, and he'll send it to me with like a different performance 8 times labeled. And I go, ooh, use 7. Okay, use 5. And I'm going like, take 5 frames off that. And he'll go, then he'll send it to me again 10 times in a row where it's like, here it is with 6 frames off, 7 frames off, 8 frames off, 9 frames off. And I watch each one and go, it's the 8 frames off. So
Wow.
we had edited a version of the bank sequence uh, already, and a little bit of like the walk and talk into the police station when opens the door and sees the coat rack. And those are ones that we had fine-tuned a bit as much as you can over Slack. And I've shown it to a couple of producers and stuff, and they're like, you should show the whole crew this to kind of like midway through. And so that's what I showed at lunch one day, like on a big screen, those things. So that's it. But other than that, nobody, like I don't think Pamela ever saw anything we were doing while we were doing it. And Liam, certainly, neither of them are people that go back to playback and go, play that back, let me see what I did. They
Huh.
are definitely not those people.
Um, tonally, everyone was in the same movie, which is very much a credit to you. And I mean, not to sound like a total fucking nerd, but it's very like Yorgos Lanthimos to me, where like clearly
High
everyone
praise.
knows what movie they're in. And it works so well. Was there anything that you pulled off practically? Because that's the other key to this is that it seemed like a lot of this was practical, very true to the other
You mean
movie.
like in terms of like, for instance, like all the chargers getting pulled out of the wall thing?
Right. Yeah. And
Yes.
like,
It was a speech I gave like the first, I mean, honestly, even before the very first day of prep, probably just in my meetings where I'm meeting department heads and like deciding who's I'm gonna hire, like the production designer and the props and stuff. The first thing I said is I want to do everything practically that we can possibly do, knowing that VFX will be used because it's 2025,
mm,
but that should be the like mantra or the goal. And because it's just so much funnier if you know it's really happening. If you can tell it's VFX, it's like, well, then you could have done anything. And so a lot of that stuff is. That's the charger is the one I keep talking about when I talk about practical because it's in the trailer and I don't want to ruin stuff for people.
yeah,
Um,
because I was gonna say, like, was there one you can actually talk about that you were so relieved that it was pulled off?
well, I mean that's a good one because it's hard. There aren't even safety wires being erased. There's nothing. Like the dailies are the car charger bit,
Oh
100%.
God.
And it could play in a one shot. I mean, it's just there. And so they had to rig, you know, make those fake chargers and put explosives under for pyrotechnics for them getting ripped out and bury all these fake high power cables under asphalt and gravel and then do it up to a fake transformer and then have that whole wall ready to blow and then build a fake prison like backdrop behind that wall and then have the prisoner stunt people waiting back there and when the wall comes down they all get run out and it was
Jeez.
all in, you do it all at once, just like they would have back in the 80s shooting the first Naked Gun. And I mean, those are the most awesome, right? Because you're just like, we just wrote this gag and now here it is. And you have the safety person being like, 3, 2, 1, and everyone does it and everyone cheers when it's done. And That's when you're like, oh, I'm making a real movie. And then again, I don't want to spoil things for your viewers slash readers, but if this is later or if they hung up, there are other key examples of ones that we really did.
And then finally, I noticed that your Lonely Island boys, Andy and Yorma, were listed in looping. And
I
is
snuck their voices. They're each in there one time as a voice off camera doing something as a as something I wanted to make sure we were all in there.
okay, and can you tell anybody what those off-camera voices are doing, or is that a spoiler?
I feel like I'd rather, at least for a while, have anybody that cares enough to hunt, see if they can figure out where they are.
Fair enough.
It's also,
And
I'm also in there a few different times because I would do the temp in the editing room. It's all me for all the off-camera stuff because I'm just sitting there, or it's Brian sometimes, in my phone. Half the time when I need an ADR line from Liam, it's just me being like, yes, Beth, I know what, like I'm doing every voice while we edit. And then some of those off-camera little ones were in the final mix, and I'm like, you can leave that one. I can be that guy. So I'm in there a little bit.
it's like your cameo.
That is, I was
And
so
then
strict
as you
about no
are,
real comedians being in the movie to try to make it, the Zaz thing is that people kept asking me like, "Wait, when's your cameo?" And I'd be like, "I'm I'm not famous, but I'm just enough of a comedy person that I'm not allowed in there."
and finally, because you're wrapping up this movie, is there any possibility of Lonely Island happening live anytime soon? Like, can your schedules come together?
Live is a hard one for us only because it's like you have to plan way ahead of time. Like concerts get announced when you see it, the tickets are like 6 months from now or 8 months from now. They're just such a commitment. And so it's always been, we were so lucky we got to do it that one time where we all kind of identified a summer and went, wait, you could do it that summer? I could do it that summer. All right. Well, once we say yes, that's what we're doing that summer. Um, but I know we had a blast, so I hope we get to do it again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for doing this movie justice.
Well, thank you for thinking that.